Hi, today I want to talk to you about having a relationship with God. Do you have a relationship with God, or do you just know God? Know of God. In Proverbs 3:5-6, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path." So today I want to talk to you about how to establish a relationship with God. You know, it wasn't until my 50s that I realized that I knew God, but I didn't know God. I use God for money issues, financial issues, make this plane take off on time, um, help me find a parking space, those type of things. I prayed to God sporadically. I didn't really know who God exactly was. I grew up in an era where you went to church every Sunday and you went to church on Wednesdays for Bible study. On Saturday, you got your clothes ready, your hair pressed, you did all the things so that in the morning you could be prepared for church. And I would sit in church for hours with my mother, and you couldn't fidget. You couldn't do many things while you were sitting there. And the preacher would preach and preach and preach. But here's where I think the church did me wrong. They never told me how to speak to God, how to have a relationship with God. In my case, they just talked to me of God. So I never knew much about God. I really had never even opened a Bible. And so this is where my story begins. And I lived in New York City. I had this power job. I had a power apartment. I had my little list of clothes from Barney's and Bloomingdale's, my designer jeans. Oh my God, I'm walking around with $400 jeans. $18 martinis. And I started losing weight and I got sick. Doctors told me that it might be terminal, to go ahead and take care of my business. And I lost my job. I then not only lost my job, I lost my apartment. And yes, I had 6 months of savings in the bank. I became homeless, and I started living in a veteran shelter in New York City. And I thought my life was over, but then I started fighting back because I've always had this fighting spirit. They found out what was wrong with me. The doctors worked on curing me. Obviously, I'm still here. But the ironic thing is, when I look back on that period in my life, I remember praying to God for good health and money to pay the rent, and not having an eviction on my record. And when those things didn't happen, I basically just ghosted God. I accepted my faith and I moved on. So I'm at the shelter, and as I'm preparing, the transition from the shelter to finding housing, blah, 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 and getting whatever benefits I'm entitled to because I have this quote unquote illness, I began searching for answers on YouTube and Google, and because I was determined not to stay down. And I started becoming more positive about myself, and I found all these law of attraction videos, and I tried them, and I did chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and it worked. I got an apartment and I did Kundalini yoga, where you do the ego eradicator and you walk out and you feel fantastic. Oh my God, you feel the snake coming down. I did the 369 method. I did the Silva method. I've done the writing on the paper, the moon water. If it's on the internet, I've done it. And for 3 or 4 years I did this, and here's the thing. No matter what method, no matter what person, no matter what book, no matter what event, experience, formula, mantra, or music I turned to, nothing worked. Nothing worked permanently. But nevertheless, I continued. And no matter how much my heart desires were answered, because some of these methods worked, um, I still felt empty. And here's why I felt empty. While these methods worked, they were temporary for me and they didn't fill this void over my heart. And I came to realize that as I continued down this path of magical thinking, I was still missing something. And before I tell you how God revealed these answers to me, let me just say this. I believe that the significant problems that we face can never be solved at the same level of thinking that we were at when we created those same problems. So think about it. When I became homeless, I was frantic. I was desperate. I was upset. I was anxious, nervous, embarrassed, shamed, whatever. And I came to my solution even after I got my apartment with the same emotions, with the same energy. And even though I was projecting a positive energy out there, what really was happening was I was looking for a solution with the same type of energy that I was looking to solve my problems. And we look for the first quick fix that we find, and thinking that the solution lies in a social media trending method. And again, I'm not saying they don't work. What I'm saying is these methods don't lead anywhere. At least for me, they did not offer a permanent solution. So, when we forget that these methods aren't bringing us any closer to anything. They aren't bringing us to the realization that there's something bigger than us out there. So, when I felt this emptiness, I started asking during my meditations during the day for God to help me. And during one of my meditations, I remember thinking that God was the answer. And I started thinking about it. And here's the thing. I was on my way to the elevator to the roof deck because I had forgotten to put out my jar of water so that it could be charged by the moon. I was making moon water. I heard the words, "Be still." And so I rushed down to my computer and I looked for, what are these words? Be still. Be still and know that I am God. Psalms 46:10. And those words enabled me to slow down and to start thinking about what I wanted in my life. And it enabled me to establish a relationship with God because I started listening to daily scripture, reading the Bible. I started slowing down and taking the word into my mind. I discovered I didn't need to strive for anything. I could stop begging in prayer for things, places. People, places, and things began to line up. Parking spaces began to open. Things that I didn't even know I needed would show up in my life. I began to notice my surroundings, the beauty of nature. And here's the thing, I started realizing that my life had changed, that I was happier every day, that there were fewer days when I found myself needing to do this, "Oh God, please, if you give me this parking space." I didn't need to do that anymore because being still, and when I say be still, I just mean like take a moment, whether it's 5 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever. Take a moment out of your 24 hours a day and just sit and be still and know that God is there. Be still and know that God is the answer. I think that many of us, we want God in our lives. We need God in our lives. But in order to have God in your life, you've got to acknowledge Him. God should be your best friend. And I don't mean that in a bad way. There's nothing you do that God does not know about. There's nothing that you do that God does not see. There's nothing that you do that God is not a part of. And if you know that, why do you need another method? If you know that, why aren't you taking His problems, your problems, to Him? Not just your problems, because see, it's not like you call your girlfriend and you go, hey girl, here's all my problems A through Z. No, you need to take everything to Him. Your joys, your triumphs, everything. So today, I rely solely on God because I know He always has my back. Just as I always fill His heart with gratitude for everything He does for me, even when things go wrong, I thank Him because I understand that He knows what He's doing. And so I can start my day with a smile on my face. I can end this day with a smile on my face. And if somebody cuts me off in traffic, hey, you know what I do? I look at it as a learning opportunity. Because, see, I've cut people off in traffic too. Sometimes your mind thinks you know everything, but maybe he cut you off in traffic so that you'll be 20 seconds behind him. So that when that person's in an accident, it wasn't you. Maybe he cut you off in traffic because God needs you to slow down. Whatever the reason might be, once you become still, recognize that God is who God says He is, things become so much easier. So much easier. So with that said, I'm going to read this last one. I'm looking for my Bible. No. So it was Psalms 139 that actually helped me out. I have to get my glasses on. I'd like to conclude this video by reading Psalms 139 because this really helped me out. It says, "O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit or stand. When far away, you know my every thought. You chart the path ahead of me and tell me where to stop and rest. Every moment you know where I am. You know what I am going to say before I even say it. You both precede and follow me and place your hand of blessing on my head." So you see, God is above, below, to the left, to the right, in front, and in back of us. God is holding us up. So if you want to do more than just know God, you have to understand God. You have to know that God is here always and in all ways. That said, may you and yours have a great day. This is God's plan for salvation. My name is Phoenix. Have a great day.